Rudy Giuliani's rise to prominent national and world attention was elevated by his role as mayor of New York City during a time of heightened challenge that culminated in the fateful events of September 11, 2001. The leadership qualities he exhibited that day won him broad and wide acclaim from the 9/11 Commission. Having been established as a hero, Giuliani has been emphasizing his 9/11 status ever since, and today is enjoying promising numbers in presidential polls, which opine him as the nominee to beat in '08. He has refined himself as America's mayor, suggesting that if he can handle the events of that day, then surely, as president, he will be able to handle anything that might come his way. Many Americans hold Giuliani in high regard, considering him a great leader, a political hero, the type of person who can take charge in a moment's notice and manage when things seem at their worst. This definition has been so ingrained into American society that even the Christian right seems willing to support him and his liberal stances on gun control, abortion, and gay civil union. Giuliani stated in an ABC News interview that he was given warning of the collapse well in advance of the actual event.
Go immediately to the Office of Emergency Management?
I went down to the scene and we set up headquarters at 75 Barkley Street, which was right there with the police commissioner, the fire commissioner, the head of emergency management, and we were operating out of there when we were told that the World Trade Center was going to collapse. And it did collapse before we could actually get out of the building. So we were trapped in the building for 10, 15 minutes and finally found an exit and got out, walked north, and took a lot of people with us.
His account is corroborated by two different eyewitnesses. From the passages of the oral histories of emergency responders, the account of EMT Richard Zarilio goes as follows. Quote, "As I was walking towards the fire command post, I found Steve Mosilio. I said, 'Steve, where's the boss? I have to give him a message.' He said, 'Well, what's the message?' I said, 'The buildings are going to collapse. We need to evac everybody out.' With a very confused look, he said, 'Who told you that?' I said, 'I was just with John at OEM. OEM says the buildings are going to collapse. We need to get out.' He escorted me over to Chief Gansey. He said, 'Hey, Pete, we got a message that the buildings are going to collapse.' His reply was, 'Who the F told you that?' Then Steve brought me in, and with Chief Gansey, Commissioner Feehan, Steve, I believe Chief Turi was initially there. I said, 'Listen, I was just at OEM. The message I was given was that the buildings are going to collapse. We need to get our people out.' At that moment, this thunderous rolling roar came down, and that's when the building came down. The first tower came down and closed."
Everybody all right? Yeah, I'm okay. How's the way out of here?
And then realize, okay, I'm not dead.
Yeah, right here.
So let's turn on my floodlight on top of my camera.
All right, come on down this way. Yeah, let's get out the way we came in. Okay, come on back. Everybody down.
Inside the Trade Center, all Jules and Chief Pfeiffer knew,
Well, yeah, right here.
all anyone knew, was that something had gone terribly wrong.
All right? No, come in.
They asked me, you with the light, to help us out.
We gotta get everybody out.
Which was pointing my light wherever they needed.
Right here. Where's your
I remember seeing Chief Pfeiffer.
Command post from Tower 1. All units, evacuate the building.
Zerilio's recollection is verified by Fire Marshal Steve Mosilio. Quote, "At that point, I don't know exactly when the commissioner and mayor had left. It was pretty soon after they had left that Richard Zerilio, who works with EMS, I believe he's an OEM liaison, came running up to me. I was not on the ramp at this time. I was like almost at the sidewalk location. He said, 'Steve, where's the chief?' I have to tell him, you know." I said, "Tell him what, Richie?" "These buildings are in imminent danger of collapse." I said, "How do you know that?" So he ran with me. I ran over and grabbed Chief Gansey and said, "Chief, these buildings are in imminent danger of collapse." If Giuliani was told that the towers were going to collapse, as he says he was, why not relay that information onto the other emergency workers, firefighters, and police officers that were still trapped and engaged in saving people in those towers? Why not spare their lives by sharing that information and getting them out instead of allowing them to die, buried under the weight of tons of twisted steel? The real question is, who in OEM told Giuliani and Zerilio that the towers were pending collapse? Who is this John character? If someone had prior knowledge of the tower's destruction, perhaps that person can explain how they knew those towers were coming down.
I have a question for you. You reported to Peter Jennings that on 9/11 that the World Trade, the towers were going to collapse, and excuse me, no steel structure in history has ever collapsed due to a fire. How come the people in the buildings weren't notified, and who else knew about this? And how do you sleep at night?
Ma'am, I didn't know that the towers were going to collapse.
You reported
And
to Peter
also,
Jennings.
no.
You said on Peter Jennings on ABC
And
video,
also,
you indeed said that the towers, you were notified the towers were going to collapse while you were in some, not sure exactly where you were prior to, but you said on ABC video with Peter Jennings in an interview that you were aware that the towers were going to collapse in advance. We'd like to know who told you the towers were going to collapse in advance, sir, and also we'd like to know who else you told.
Well, the fact is that I didn't realize the towers would collapse. I never realized that. If I can complete the sentence, if you give me the courtesy to complete the sentence, our understanding was that over a long period of time, the way other buildings collapse, the towers could collapse, meaning over a 7, 8, 9, 10-hour period. No one that I knew of had any idea that they would implode. That was a complete surprise. Thank you.
Thank you all.
We were told that the World Trade Center was going to collapse, and it did collapse before we could actually get out of the building. So
Did it occur to you at all at that time that these buildings might actually collapse?
Yeah, but not the way they did. It occurred to all of us that they would ultimately collapse over the way buildings, usually collapse, which is in stages.
Clearly, Giuliani, by his own words, confirms that he was told by a person named John at the Office of Emergency Management that the towers were going to collapse. How did the Office of Emergency Management know that the towers were going to collapse when never in the history of fire has any steel-structured building lost integrity due to fire or heat or melting of steel? It's never happened ever before, and yet on this particular day it happened 3 separate occasions.
Now, here we're going to show you a videotape of the collapse itself.
Describe that.
Now we go to videotape, the collapse of this building.
It's amazing.
Amazing, incredible, pick your word. For the 3rd time today, it's reminiscent of those pictures we've all seen too much on television before, when a building was deliberately destroyed by well-placed dynamite to knock it down.